Hey folks, I'm attorney Roger P. Foley, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about why it's important to be determined, to have focus, and to do your best in a situation. All right. I had a client, 2 charges: grand theft and providing false information or written statement to obtain services, meaning like food stamps, welfare fraud, that kind of thing. Spoke to my client numerous times and was really convinced that, like, hey, maybe they I don't think they really knew. And then I asked him, did you know? No, I didn't know. Turns out during COVID, their significant other worked at a place. Obviously hours changed, right? COVID, we had the tough time, right? And they were not getting the stubs anymore. So when you didn't get the stubs, you had to get a piece of paper signed from children and families by an employer. Well, this significant other supposedly had it signed and gave it to, right, their spouse, and their spouse submitted it. 4 years later, it turns out that the spouse exaggerated, like lessened how much they made by $1. So I'm going to give you a hypothetical. Like, instead of making $13 or $14 an hour, they made $15 an hour, like $1 difference, which probably on the grand scheme of getting, support, probably really didn't make any difference. But the spouse that inputted the information, they didn't know that their spouse had fudged the numbers. Now, you could say, well, of course they knew. Well, how would they know? They had a document signed by the employer. Turns out that the employer wasn't signing it. The spouse was forging the name. So I'm representing the spouse that gets charged with 2 felonies, facing 10 years. No criminal history, 8 years military background, honorable discharge, 50 years old, no issues, like never been arrested. The other spouse, in trouble, having issues, drugs, alcohol, fraud, whatever. I get on the case, I file in, I get my discovery, I talk to a prosecutor. Prosecutor's assigned. I'm trying, right from the beginning, I'm trying to either get my client into Veterans Court or get the case dismissed before I even have the discovery. Hey, prosecutor's like, well, the only thing I could do from a diversion perspective is military. So I double checked my client. I was in the military. I had forgotten to ask. I get the information and I send it in. They go, nah, that's nice. Great military background, all that. But we don't think that it correlates anything that they did or went through in the military to grand theft. Like they don't see the nexus. I go, what? Well, they changed the statute a couple of years ago for Veterans Court. Now the state attorney decides, it's not the court. Thank you, Governor, and your legislature. So now the state attorney goes, yeah, you know what? If someone has mental health issues or anxiety or depression or PTSD, and they steal something, we don't see an nexus, right? So, and then we're in a jurisdiction far, far away that is really a difficult jurisdiction, and I'm sure you can figure it out. Okay, maybe you can. There's a lot of tough jurisdictions in Florida. Okay, so I talked to the prosecutor, they go, no. I talked to the Veterans Court supervisor, no, they're not letting my client in. Hey, before you just say no, let me get all the medical records, let me see, right? And then while I'm doing this, I'm doing it simultaneously, I keep talking to my client. And I'm getting, like, sometimes when you talk to a client and even though you ask questions, they hold back. But it takes a while to build a rapport with someone. So I'm talking to my client and little by little information's coming out. And all the information is pointing to they didn't know. And now the prosecutor, who I've emailed, 10 times, called 10 times, ignoring my calls, ghosting me, calling the day, the week, the month, all this before the court date. just not responding. I get to court. I'm outside in the hallway with my client. My client's like, Mr. Foley, I'm just going to take it. It's 5 years of probation, pay the restitution, can't apply for food stamps or, Medicaid or any of that stuff. And I just pause, like I have the piece of paper in my hand, guys. And I mean, any defense attorney that's watching this can understand this. You've literally cross-examined your own client in the office, on the telephone, on Zoom. And you're convinced, like, your client really didn't know. Their significant other is just not really, it's shady. And this person's going to take the hit. And they're going to be a felon, right? They're going to have 2 felonies on their record, 5 years of probation, etc. And I got to go talk to the prosecutor again. I mean, court's going on and go, brother, like I told you the story, like this is the situation. The spouse is not so good. They just have a kid together, like the other spouse cheated, lied, did whatever. And my client, like, because I was literally, even though the judge really can't do anything, because the judge can't change the charge, I was hoping as a last ditch effort, if this prosecutor doesn't change, and again, he ignored me for like 6 months, took like 8-9 months to get the discovery. I had to file multiple motions to compel, and then he tells the court, I'm sending it this afternoon, and then doesn't, so I withdraw the motion. But now because I withdrew the motion, just, if you're a defense attorney, you file a motion to compel, even if you're that, I'll get to, okay, judge, you just sign the order and make sure I have it in the next 5 days. Because this prosecutor literally didn't give me the stuff. And I said, hey man, like I've called you, I've emailed you, like you're not responding. Probably didn't want the judge to hear that. But anyway, judge probably wouldn't be able to do anything. I go, listen, I've explained the story to you. Like, there's nothing in the discovery, right? You have a person that filled out the form that turned it in, but the form was given to them. So if I hand you something right now that someone else just gave it to me, am I committing fraud? Well, if I know I am, but what if I don't know? Yeah. The prosecutor's like, yeah, that's why I'm giving you, that's why I'm not asking for incarceration. I mean, I'm not convicting them. They're going to be a felon, but they're not a convicted felon. They're not losing their right to vote. And I go, brother, do you want to, I literally looked at him and said, do you want to prosecute an innocent person? Like, do you want to, because now I'm starting to get like angry, but there's nothing I can do, but I'm trying to keep it cool because the argument that I'm relying on is, my client's felon or not status. So I keep going back. I said, look at the spouse, pull up the records. I've already given you my client's, military background and all that. And I see him starting to look. He actually, like, I was surprised, right? And then the judge is calling me up and he goes, I'll change it to a misdemeanor. And the 2 felonies dropped 1 felony and then reduced 1 felony to misdemeanor. So basically client got no felonies, a misdemeanor, withholding court cost, and they paid the restitution. Now, is it a super thing? No, because the client still pled, right? Maybe they got on third base. It was a triple, but it wasn't a home run, and it wasn't a grand slam home run, and an innocent person still pled to something that they didn't do. Now, I could be, right, they could have pulled the shade over my eyes, but I really don't think that, this person knew. And if I didn't keep fighting until the last minute, and I can't tell you how many public defenders, how many defense attorneys in our country have had cases like this where it's just like, you don't want to please someone. They're going, no, I'll just do it. I just want to plead guilty. Like, I'll take the hit, and they're innocent, but they can't throw their significant other or their family member under the bus. It's a tough situation. I'm glad I stuck through it. It was like a Hail Mary at the end of the game, and at least it's a misdemeanor, and that's it. Withhold court cost, and it's over. But it took a year to get to that, and the last 6 months of however many months, 3 months, 4 months since the last court date to get a prosecutor to return a call or respond to an email. They're not all like that, but there's a good amount. So I'm attorney Roger P. Foley. It's a tough job. Anyway, see ya.